Hi there, it's Pastor Div here from Globalheart Church, and it's my joy to welcome you to Sisterhood Stories, a collection of lived experiences shared by women within the Globalheart community. We invite you to watch and listen as they tell of some of the challenges that life has offered them, coming from different generations and backgrounds with one thing in common: the profound impact of the love, mercy, and kindness of God in their lives. It is our prayer that these testimonies will resonate with you and encourage you that in every season and circumstance, God is nearer than perhaps you know. Here are our Sisterhood Stories.
Hi, my name is Eva.
My name is Div.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Maxine.
Hey, my name is Jazz.
I'm Joylene Mariano.
I'm Michelle.
Hi, I'm Leslie.
My name's Amy Walker.
Hi, my name's Courtney.
Time again, we find ourselves here. The same old storm, the same old warm clothes again. 'Cause it is in our nature, augmented creation, to be doubtful to the end. But that is where you find me, and that is where you shine free, in the middle of my mess. And I know I won't give up this faith.
After Mark and I had been married for a few years, we started trying for a family, but nothing was happening. So after a while, we got some help, we had some tests done, and then found out that I had severe endometriosis. So I had surgery to remove that. And in the morning after that surgery, the surgeon came around to see how the surgery went. And it changed my life, really, what she had said. She said that the endometriosis was so bad that they had to remove both of my fallopian tubes, which meant that I just lost my ability to fall pregnant naturally. So it was devastating, really.
When my husband passed away, but before that he'd had to go into a nursing home, which I found very difficult and very upsetting, because it wasn't something that we had anticipated, but he lost his mobility, and they made it very clear that I was unable to look after him. So that was a big change in both of our lives. And then he passed away about 3 years after that. So yeah, then that was another journey to get through, being on your own. All of a sudden there's no one there to say good morning to or good night to. And nighttime is usually about the worst.
Our first two babies, they were great eaters. They slept pretty well and they grew very well as well. But when our third one was born, Zara, she was very refluxy. So it was a little bit of a different story. She didn't keep a lot down. So poor thing, she was in quite a bit of pain. She was up a lot in the night and she didn't sleep very well. She was very hungry, I guess, as well. But we were up very consistently in the night with her, sometimes hourly, sometimes for hours at a stretch. At our wit's end, I think would be a good description of where we were at that time.
What we thought was just going to be a doctor's visit, drain the pus, come back home, turned out to be something much bigger. We were referred to the Perth Children's Hospital. Michelle had to go through under so many tests. And the result of it all was that she was diagnosed with lymphoma. She knows the name better. What is it called?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And life just changed.
So in 2020, we were expecting the arrival of our beautiful first son. Unfortunately, there was some human error in his birth when we experienced something called a shoulder dystocia, and that meant that he would sadly end up on life support for the week to come. Now, in this week, we experienced a lot of challenges, a lot of hope, a lot of desperation, and just feeling like we couldn't really bring about the answers on our own. And we truly were faced with some really big heartbreaks in that time, and we dealt with a lot of things off the back of the trauma that would eventually come from losing our sweet boy. Seeing your child in a NICU and everyone you love meet your first child in a way that wasn't what you quite expected was extremely challenging at times, and we wish things were different, however they are not. Since this time when we lost him, we've navigated a lot of legal struggles and all the things that come along with losing a child or anyone personally in an unexpected way, just like a bit of sense of identity crisis. We've struggled with mental health and just navigating a world that we realised was a little bit more broken than we since had known.
A subconscious expectation for a lot of young girls, and definitely for me, was this idea that maybe we didn't know that we had, that one day somebody would point us out of a crowd and choose us and say, I am going to love you unconditionally with everything that I have, with everything that I am, because you are the object of everything I could ever hope for or dream of. And I think rejection can do a lot of damage to a young heart, particularly when it is over a long period of time, particularly when it is repeated by multiple people. And so in my late teens and early 20s, I became really familiar with this particular version of heartbreak. And maybe you are familiar with it. It's the one that kind of just feels like a dull ache in your core that just never really quite goes away. And it's kind of like the haunt of that question of, why am I not enough?
Growing up, I dealt with a lot of health problems. I have had extreme endometriosis for all my life. And then heading into adulthood, it kind of came to a point where it felt like, honestly, like my body just stopped functioning. So I spent about the first year of marriage in bed or recovering from surgeries, finally starting to come out of that. I was really hopeful. And then I got really bad vertigo. Just one day woke up and it was there. I was passing out 3-4 times a day, every single day, for no reason, or no reason that we could figure out. So I couldn't, go places on my own comfortably. I couldn't drive, and I ended up having to actually quit my job. I ended up just in bed or on the couch or, in my house for about 6 months. I really felt like my body had failed me. My endometriosis hadn't gone away. I was still in a lot of pain. It felt like my life was on pause and there was no answer and there was no direction to go from there. I was really alone. I felt really alone. Obviously, have a wonderful husband, but he had to go to work every day and I couldn't be at church. I couldn't be, around my community easily. It was a really, really, really tough time.
Everything was going really well until we got just past our first trimester, so shortly into our second trimester. And we lost our baby, our second baby. Yeah, so that is probably the most intense grief I've experienced, the closest to my heart.
My dad was diagnosed with cancer when I was 4 years old, and he battled that disease for 13 years and then passed away when I was 16. Over that time, me and my family, we prayed along with our church for healing over and over and over again. And I remember just thinking, how could a good God not heal a faithful man? My dad's death completely devastated our entire family. There was a lot of substance abuse, deep depression, suicidal tendencies, just really negative behaviour.
So naturally, I sort of turned away from God myself completely. I think I was quite angry at the fact that, you know, in church, in God, it sort of seems like people should have a happier life or a better life, but I just couldn't come to terms with why God wouldn't answer a prayer for healing. I went on my own dark spiral of living without boundaries, just trying to fill this emptiness in my heart. Now that I had turned away from God, I was looking for something to give my life meaning. A year after I graduated high school, I booked myself a solo international trip. I thought that going overseas travel might sort of fill the emptiness in my heart. And it was when I was overseas, I found that the emptiness sort of followed me there. And I knew that I was still me, just in a different country. I was thinking, you know, God, when I get back to Perth, I'm going to give you one last try to show me that you're real. And if you are real, you can do a work in my life. And so I kind of made that promise to myself.
And oh, these broken bones, these tear-filled holes, each dead-end road, each self-led broken way. 'Cause it's not in your nature to forget creation, watching every tear roll down, and beyond understanding, but glorious in grandeur, pulling each piece to its place. My God, I won't give up this faith. And hear me crying out, oh God, oh, I know you hear my voice. And wrap me in your arms, oh Lord, and have your way. Lost its way, no longer stays here, and in its place a mighty faith of purest sound.
I had a friend say, look, there's a church around the corner, and if you want to come along, like, I'll go with you. And so I knew that was the moment that I could stay true to the promise that I had made myself. And so it was a Christmas Eve service, and I came and sat at the back of church. And I remember just standing there in the worship, and it was like this sense of peace had just come over me. And it wasn't like this huge fireworks moment or anything like that. It was just, I felt like a little bit of that emptiness had left my heart. And so it was in that moment that I knew that I had to come back to church again. And it's been a journey since then, but every time I had come back, I felt a little bit less empty and a little bit less broken.
So even though so much was going on, I was just so at peace. And I think my relationship with God grew so much more because I didn't just see him as some like distant figure. I really grew a relationship with him, and I'd talk to him and cry to him and really just had those moments where I was just vulnerable with him, and I genuinely felt his presence and his peace, which I'd never felt before. So it was lots of feelings, but it was also just really amazing and very surreal.
I remember in that time just having this thought and just being reminded, you're always speaking Jehovah Rapha, you're always praying Jehovah Rapha. Now you've got the chance to believe and to trust that what you've been saying, do you believe it? Do you believe that he is Jehovah Rapha? Our connect group, made sure we were fed. Like, they rallied behind us, and they were making meals 24/7. Like, we actually would have I was joking with Michelle and my family the other day, like Mariana and Sharon would say, I think we ate better when Michelle was in hospital, because we had all this variety and with all this food that kept coming from our Connect group. And just having other women in church, other ladies just holding your hand, checking how are you going. We just trusted in the joy of the Lord being our strength. We just trusted in knowing that God is good no matter what.
Being blessed to know God and follow Jesus prior to this happening, I knew that I could come to God, that He wasn't worried by what I felt. And there were so many things that I felt and questions that I had, and the why kind of questions, fears, and just intense grief, trying to be a mum because I already had a little boy, and just pick yourself up somewhat in that time. So there was a lot of things to process, but God is not afraid of who we are as people in those moments and how we feel. Grief is not the end. Death is not the end. This is not the final part of the story. You're not going to be in this forever. For a long time, I felt like I couldn't read, Bible verses. I couldn't get my head into the space of what you think as a Christian you should do in that time to find Jesus. All I could do was just cry out, Jesus. Yeah, I just felt a huge, and I can only use the word joy, as strange as that sounds, to be grieving, but also joyful that Jesus had done it and the answer was there.
In the middle of that hospital room where I just experienced the worst thing I'd ever been told, God actually met me there in that room. He gave me 2 scriptures that same day. One was Ephesians 3:20. God can do anything, far more than you could ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. And later that day, through a few different things that happened, another scripture from Genesis, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. It was just quite crazy, but it was so intense that I actually knew without a doubt that God was saying to me too, about this time next year, you shall have a son.
One of the most beautiful things about Jesus is that He meets us in the place of reality, even when that is a place of pain. I think especially when that is a place of pain. And I think that one of the ways Jesus heals me is by teaching me about His reality. And His is one in which, just like the world I know, the grass is green and the sky is blue, but unlike the world I know, my worth and my value is not subject for debate. It is not something that I have to build or forge out myself. It is an indisputable fact that has been proven by the cross where He died for me. In His reality, love, a great love, is not something that I have to discover or find, but is actually something I already have that I just have to experience and know and understand, which is something that He invites me to each and every day.
We experienced a time when Pastor Jordan and Bianca were standing in front of the NICU just praying for our son, and I happened to witness it from the corridor, and I just felt this warmth. And I just genuinely felt like everything was going to be okay, even if it wasn't quite what we were hoping for. And to me, God is exactly that. He's a resting place, and He's a peace that can't even really be put into words sometimes. We're not left untouched by our experience by God if you ever encounter one, and you're also not left untouched by grief. Both can have such an impact on you that can't even be put into words. And I truly just hope that anyone in that season of feeling lost and alone, I just hope that they might find God in that.
And I remember when we were just honest in crying out to God for help in that moment, that He was so gracious and so there with us. We just felt something shift in the atmosphere. And even though the circumstance didn't change for quite some time still, we knew that something had shifted in our family dynamic and in the atmosphere over us and in our relationship with our little girl. We felt that we could bond with her more. We felt like we knew that Jesus was there with us, and we honestly just felt the strength from him, like he promises in his word, that he will walk through us with every season, in every season.
Jesus is, just so important in my life. He's the main centre of my life. And so coming back to church, to be in the atmosphere, the praise and worship, and to be around people that you love them and they love you, and so that all helps.
During all those challenges where, it felt like my life was falling apart, Jesus, honestly, God was the one true, stable thing in my life. And I say that with all love and respect to everyone who was there, and everyone who stood by me. I have a wonderful family, wonderful community, but at the end of the day, no one could be there every second of the day. No one understood it. No one was in it with me the way that it really felt like Jesus was, because I was alone so much and I was so scared and so sad all the time. Jesus really was the only thing that I had, that I felt I could rest in, that I felt, relieved me, gave me peace, and gave me something good to look to, something good to look forward to. But beyond all of that, hope was the biggest thing. And I think the beautiful thing about it, and the most wonderful thing that I learned about that, was that it took almost so little from me, that God's grace was so big that all I needed and all I had was that, that mustard seed of faith. Like, it was so small, honestly. Like, I think back and I think, like, I didn't deserve any of the goodness he showed me during that season. I had this overwhelming sense of, I've done nothing here. I do not deserve this. I have so little that I'm bringing. My faith was so, small. My, joy was so small from me. But what God brought to that was so huge and so disproportionate to what I had. That was the overwhelming thing. And that was one thing I learned during that season, was that his goodness is always going to be over and above what I have. And so all I can do is just bring what I have, even if it feels like it's not enough, even if it feels like it's basically nothing.
So let the mountains tremble, let them see what you hold. In the smallest mustard seed, let that seed be full grown to better worship you more. Use each broken part of me, and I know I won't give up this faith. And hear me crying out, oh God. Oh, I know you hear my voice. And wrap me in your arms, oh Lord, and have your way. And everything I am, oh Lord, let me glorify your name. Let my brokenness give way to bring you fame.
After the 6 months of treatment, officially on October 24th, I was free of cancer. That's when my treatment was finished, and it was a really good day. I was very excited to go home and to finally say I'm cancer free.
Just sitting down and hearing those words from the oncologist saying, you're fully healed, you don't have cancer anymore in your body. You just sit there and you say, he's done it. He is faithful. He's done it.
My relationship with God is not transactional, and it's not that I'll only love him if he does X, Y, Z for me, or if my family or myself is in good health. But he and his love for me is actually all I need in this world. And that gives you the ability to rise above your circumstances. And it gives you the ability to realize that you don't have to be a victim of trauma. You don't have to be a victim of relationships. You don't have to be a victim of health circumstances. But if God is all you have, God is literally all you need.
There's never been a promise that we won't go through hardships, but it's knowing he's there and might not take it away, but he will walk the journey through with you. And I just think that's such a blessing to have that blessed assurance, I suppose you could say, that song, Blessed Assurance, because that's just so true. Yes, I just don't know how I would cope without having God. I love helping people. And my friend Jeanette has lost her husband, so we do quite a lot of things together. We both love sewing and gardening and all of those things, so we have great companionship. She lives not very far from me, so sometimes we'll have breakfast together, either at my place or her place or somewhere else, and we get together and sew together. And sisterhood is such a blessing to women, and there's no competition. You know, you can share. You're in a safe place. You can share whatever is going on in your life, and you know that people are there to support you.
He's healed me, he's healed my body, he's healed my children. We have everything to thank him for, and we're just so appreciative that we don't have to walk out this life alone, but we can do that with Almighty God as our protector and our guide and our comforter.
So our son Miller, he's almost 2. He is amazing. He is definitely the little sunshine in our life. It's just crazy doing life without God and then life with God, and just seeing that contrast where it feels nice to be like a child again, like a child of God, and just know that it's okay to make mistakes. And he's just been totally gracious to me and loving no matter what. And I'm just really grateful for that. So he's been wonderful. Jesus to me is literally like my dad.
I think I have for many years wanted him to take away pain or take away disappointment, and in doing so prove himself to be God and to be good. But what he has shown me is that just by being with me in my disappointment and being my ultimate hope, my eternal hope, my comfort in that place, he proves himself to be God and to be good, not by taking away the difficulty of life. And I think it's wild that I would now say I would not change a single rejection, a single pain point, a single difficulty, even a heartbreak, even that dull ache. I wouldn't change any of that, because in the middle of it, God has revealed himself to me as better than anything else that there ever is, anything that I could ever hope to experience.
The doctors had said, don't get your hopes up, this could take a while. We were getting all these negative reports. But 2 first-time IVF successes for a 42-year-old with ovary damage is pretty miraculous. So I know he can heal things instantly. In this case, he hasn't, but I know the work that he's done on my heart over the last 5 years, and that's worth so much more than what could have happened otherwise.
We became pregnant again with our daughter, who we now have, Eden. I would say that Jesus rewrote for me not just the grief, but how I felt about who I was, to know completely that I was known I am a child of God. I have so much purpose and value. Me being a mum doesn't encapsulate my worth. That in a moment of loss, in a season of loss, that doesn't take away who God has made me to be.
I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed that now, like, we have a beautiful daughter who's 1 year old, and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me and to the world. She's so wonderful. That goodness of God has been so overwhelming in my life, and now I'm out of what was that really tough health season, and everything's not perfect, but I've seen His goodness in every step of the way, and I've seen it outwork in a lot of different ways, and I'm grateful that it looks the way it does, that I got so much healing, and my body is so much healthier now than it probably ever has been. I'm really, really grateful for that. But even if that wasn't the case, I think what God taught me in that season and what I experienced of Him in that season would still be enough, because He's always enough, and His goodness is always enough.
And every time I close my eyes in despair, I see you standing arms out wide. And every heartbreak thrown my way, I see your cross. If ever there were words to say I love you, to say what that cross really bore, and I would say them all the time to worship you.
We hope that you've been moved and blessed, not only by the stories you've heard, but the invitation of God to reveal Himself in your own life. If you think that this collection of stories might bless someone in your world, why not share it with them? Tune into our podcast anytime to hear messages from the Globalheart team, and have a blessed week.